Good afternoon and welcome to Get to Know Her. So happy to have you here today. I am so excited for the interview today. We are going to get a lot of inspiration. I'm just overwhelmed and over the moon happy that Simone McLeod is joining me today. I'm going to introduce her to you officially, but before I do that, I wanted to point out my cute little jacket. It's a vintage piece from Brenda Bedome, and I have paired it with one of her lovely tops from her latest collection. But look, isn't that fun with the black stripe? Anyway, it's so cozy and it's like a jersey fabric, so it doesn't feel restrictive. Look, I can move around and I look like I'm ready for business. So if you guys want, please check out brendabedome.com and use the coupon code Get to Know Her. Brenda's giving us 22% off this year for 2022, which is awesome. And if you happen to need some coordinating jewels to go with your new Brenda outfit, please go to glamjewels.com and check out some of our new creations and get yourself the perfect piece. Now it's time to introduce Simone. Simone is an Ojibway artist from Turtle Island. Her style is woodland and her work has been called medicine painting. Simone's work is primarily done with acrylics on canvas or watercolor, although she has also painted hand drums and leather. She began painting as a way of handling her residential school experience, even though she had not gone to those schools. Through painting, Simone has overcome many personal challenges and has helped others to do the same. Simone has taught over 100,000 children how to express themselves through art. Her work is in collections throughout the world and in many businesses and galleries. Simone says, "I began painting 25 years ago. While artistic all my life, the earliest memory I have is when I was in kindergarten and worked on a purple name card with silver letters, Simone. Having felt invisible most of my life, I found that creativity let me know I was still here." This is an honor. I cannot wait for Simone to share her story with us. Let's bring her on all the way from Edmonton.
Does everybody laugh as soon as you introduce them?
You know what? It's so funny. A lot of people do laugh, and it's good. It gets the energy going for a great conversation. So yes, good morning to you, Simone.
Yes, good morning.
In Edmonton.
Snowy Edmonton.
How many feet of snow have you guys got? It must be a lot.
Oh, geez. I would guess at least 6 feet over the last little bit of time.
Oh,
I mean, we went from -50, and then a week later it was like +7, and then a week later it was back to -40.
It's so crazy, the weather. You know, I saw a friend of mine, she lives up north, like northern Ontario. And so where I am in Burlington, it never gets as cold as what they get up there. And you know what she's making with her kids? I am so jealous. I want to do this. She's making these big brick ice cubes with food coloring in them. So every cube is a different color. And then she's like building them like a little wall, like in a circular position that they can play in. And then they shine lights in it.
Yeah, I thought I saw something like that on the Weather Channel.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, there's probably you did. Maybe that's where she got her idea from. Yeah. But it was just so pretty. And I said to my husband, I want to do that. And he's like, yeah, it'll be +10 next week. And then you'll have food coloring all over the backyard.
Good point.
Yeah. So
I'm
crazy.
A smoker, so I'm going to be smoking through the interview.
That's no problem at all. You relax, enjoy yourself. I'm so happy you're here. And Simone, I wanted to share with you how I just fell upon you through social media is how I found out about you. So in 2021, when we were celebrating Canada Day, obviously there's been a lot of change and a lot of people are thinking differently, and we were not thinking about fireworks and all of this celebratory stuff we've been doing for years. We've been thinking about truth and reconciliation and wanting to listen and learn and pay attention to the landscape of what is happening. And I sort of put out to the universe, I need to find a piece of art that I can post that says something, and I don't need to use any words. And your beautiful painting of healing through compassion, I found it in my feed and I screenshot it and I posted it and I thanked you. And it was just so beautiful and it took my breath away. And I'm really, really honored to have you here today.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's just amazing what you're creating and putting out into the world. And we need you. Thank God for Simone. So yeah, well, you're incredible at it. So I want to talk to you about your painting and your creative process. And before we go there, I want to ask you the first question I ask all of my guests is, what did you want to be as a little girl growing up? What was your first?
When I was small, as far back as I can remember, I wanted to be a singer, but I think everybody wants to be a singer. It's my mom. My mom was really artistic, and she used to sit us down at the table, and she would have all kinds of pencil crayons and pens and ink and stuff like that. And she would draw, and she would try and pull it out of her kids. As a result, 3 of my brothers are artists and myself. Wow. The rest are they're university minded.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So what do you have any of your first drawings that you did with your mom? Have you kept any of those?
Oh no, but I can still see them up here. I can still remember. It was she drew a painting. She what she wanted to do was she wanted to do this drawing. And she told me that she's going to draw it and she's not going to take her hand off the paper once. And she drew a woman marching in a band playing some kind of a drum or something. Definitely non-native, but it was just amazing how she did it. And I never forgot it.
And she never took her hand off, like her.
No.
Oh my God.
She did it in like maybe 3 minutes. So that's kind of something that I like doing with my grandchildren and my kids. They're all artists. I have 9 of them. Pretty sure they're all artists. If they're not, my younger son plays piano. Yeah. And my one son plays guitar, but he's also an artist. So everybody's an artist. So I have a son with a brain injury and he's an artist too. So it's really amazing.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I love that you've passed this down from your mom. Now, do you know, was your mom's mother also artistic? Like how far along the line that this?
I know my mother's sisters are really great artists. A lot of time I swore I would not go,
Oh, you know what? Ums are good. It's okay. I'm going to look down at my paper because I don't want to miss anything. So anything goes here. So there's no rules.
Yes. My mother's sisters are all artistic and it's really amazing. My one aunt, when I went to stay with her, she was working as a graphic artist in Gimli with her husband. And I used to love sitting there looking at some of the doodles that she was doing. But they were so amazing. I mean, she could make eyes that are looking at you and just coming off the page. They're quite artistic. I don't know if they got that from their mother or if they got that from their dad. Mm-hmm. I'd have to ask. Yeah. But slowly, unfortunately, it's during COVID, it's really hard to get around. And, well, not for me, but people have to protect themselves and you can't really force yourself in somebody's company just because you have a few questions. Yeah. I'm surprised I even got this far to be able to do the interview as far as technology goes.
Well, I'm so happy that it all came together. And I know your son was assisting you behind the scenes today. So it's always good to have a technical person in the family.
Oh yeah, the young
I'm,
kids are the ones that are really good at it.
they're so good. It's so true. I'm learning so much from that younger generation. I wouldn't be doing this without like consulting, young women who have worked with me who are, millennials or the Gen Z kids. They're
Yes, my
great.
one son was just talking about the millennials and how they're very interesting.
Yeah.
Basically running the countries,
Yes. Yeah.
if not behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's right. The behind the scenes stuff. So your particular, oh, actually, before we see, I told you I'm going to look at the notes. Before we go there, I would love it if you could talk about your Ojibwe name, Earth Blanket.
I got my name. It's actually, it translates to all that covers the earth. So that would be the grass, the trees, the leaves, the rocks, snow in the winter, and just basically everything that covers the earth. And I got my name when I was 19. I was not doing too well and feeling suicidal and all that other fun stuff. And my mother, who I didn't have a very good relationship with, took me to ceremonies in Manitoba. And there, it's not just, I mean, I got a chance to see some elders who have passed on now, but they really were inspiring. And a lot of the lessons that you get at a ceremony sometimes have to do with hard work and patience. And when you're a teenager, it's you're sitting there and you're picking cedar, and then you have to clean it, and your hands start getting sore. And eventually, when somebody told you to buy gloves, you kind of figure it out later. And so at one of these ceremonies, excuse me, at one of these ceremonies, it was a naming ceremony, and I went in there and we did all the protocols that were meant to be, that had to be done. And my name was, after the ceremony, the elder gave me my name, and it was all that covers the earth. I looked at him because I think he was a Cree elder, but he gave me an Ojibway name, or either that or he was an Ojibway elder and gave me a Cree name. But the name he gave me, he got me to repeat it 4 times so that I wouldn't forget it. And I don't even know if I say it right, but I know what the name means, and it's Earth Blanket.
Wow. Can you say it or try to say it?
It's Aki Akonasit.
Wow.
I don't have I say words differently. In school, I used to get beat up for talking like a white person because I thought I was better than everybody else. But that's just the way I talk. I talk like my mother, and their ancestors are Welsh, and which explains the curly hair that I'm covering up right now.
Right.
I'm probably going to go off track a few times then.
No, that's okay. This is so interesting. Simone, it's funny when you're in this sort of interview format, I know what it's like to be on your end where you're being interviewed, and it kind of feels like there's all these, like, to me, it feels like there's all these sparks, and am I going in the right direction? But believe me, it comes together just as it should, and it's beautiful. And so far, I mean, anything you say is fascinating me. So
it's just unusual because I like making eye contact, but when I look at you, I'm kind of getting shifty. And I'm trying to look into the camera, but I keep looking at your face.
That's so funny. No, we can look at each other. People are used to seeing talking heads like this.
Okay.
Yeah. So
did I answer the question?
Yeah, that's great. So that ceremony that you went to get your name, what were some of the things that were and how long was the ceremony?
The ceremony itself, let's see, when I first went into a cultural camp, I had never been to one before, and life as a young person was really hard. I used to think that it was just me, but I do believe that all of us, no matter what cultures we come from, some of us do tend to have really hard lives. And I think that's because life is like an education. You just take what you can get as you're going along. And one day, hopefully, you'll graduate when you're in your 90s. But anyway, I remember walking up to the camp, and there was a lot of people there, and they had these different sweat lodges all over the place and tents. And I remember the first time I was going to go into a sweat lodge. It's so small, and there was like 30 people that were there, and we all went in. And when they closed the flap, and I was sitting there, and I'm really claustrophobic. I didn't feel really great at all. But the elder talked to us, and he told us that when you go into a sweat lodge and they close the flaps and it becomes completely black, he said it's like being in the womb of your mother. And when you get into the lodge and they close the flaps, your fear suddenly disappears, and it feels like you're not alone, or you're not sitting there with a whole bunch of people, but you're actually sitting in the middle of the universe. And a lot of times you'll see that I use a starry background on blue in my paintings, and it's kind of like paying homage to that feeling of being in the middle of the universe. And when you're praying, if you have the starry background in the painting, it's like some prayers they go on forever. They don't stop. You don't just pray and then you reach your goal and then suddenly it's all over. I mean, you can start over. Prayers should continually keep going on. And anyway, we did the rounds where they splash they say don't take pictures, but talking is different.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
they splashed the water, and the steam came, and the heat, and I still didn't find it very scary. Anyway, that part was over, and I went in the first night, and then by the seventh night, the elder was calling me a sweat hog because I loved it so much. I went in every time they had one for 7 days, and it was, I don't know, it was life-changing.
Wow. And you were 19.
Yes.
Amazing. Simone, I wanted to ask you actually about when you pray.
Mm-hmm.
I've been reading, different things about prayer, and I think that sort of like the way a lot of us grew up is like, if you're struggling, ask God for help. If you need something, ask God, and now, I'm realizing more and more it's not about asking for things, it's about gratitude. And some people say the only prayer you should ever say is thank you.
Mm-hmm.
How do you, what's your viewpoint on prayer, and what are some of the things you've learned about it?
I remember, I'm gonna light a cigarette. Hang on.
Yeah. Go for it.
Well, I might as well just do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Make sure it's the right
By
way.
the way, as Simone lights her cigarette, her shirt is so awesome. It's a working shirt. I said, did your little shirt have flowers on? And it's actually got paint splatters. So, hello, the shirt's worth $3 million.
You should see this table. I remember when I must have been about maybe between the ages of 5 and 8. My mother used to get me and my sister to kneel beside the bed every night and pray, and she would put these little safety pins on our nightgowns, and she would tell us that I think she would say something like, if something happened in the middle of the night, that angels would come and get you if you had those safety pins on. And we used to pray with her. My mother comes from a very heavy traditional family, but the residential schools, they change the course of people's lives temporarily. I mean, everything that we've ever been is inside of us still. But those were actually nice memories. And what was the question?
It was just, I'm curious to know your viewpoint on prayer, or how you pray, how you've been sort of taught to pray.
Well, for me, sometimes when you're praying, you don't really know what to say or what to ask for. I've always been told the one thing that you should never ask for is to pray for strength to get through something. And the reason for that is because if you pray for strength, you will keep getting obstacles and roadblocks put up in front of you so that you can get stronger.
Whoa.
So, and when I'm praying, the one thing that I've learned about over the years is that you don't necessarily have to ask for anything when you're in a state of prayer, because the Creator, the ancestors, whatever is good out there can already tell what's in your heart. And I know sometimes it gets hard to pray for people when they're going through hard times, or they've had a history of things that might have hurt them or affected their self-esteem. I mean, there's a lot of trauma going on in everybody's life. And a lot of times when it comes time to walk into a sweat lodge or walk into a church or any other place people pray, it's hard not to take feelings of, I'm not worthy, I have too much going on. It's you put up all kinds of roadblocks to stop yourself from praying.
Mm-hmm.
But we are all full of goodness, and we're all on different paths. We might not agree with the guy next door, but I mean, we're all basically good at heart. We just have to trust that and try not to lash out when things go wrong or things. I don't know if we can break away from mass hysteria in today's world and start just looking at ourselves and finding those great feelings about loving yourself first. And maybe eventually we can break down some of these things that are stopping us from moving forward. And if everybody in the world could do that, could you imagine the group strength that people would have just to love each other?
It would be incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you think that COVID has helped with this, with people going inside and looking at themselves?
I think in the beginning, when you're going on a personal journey where you're going to be exploring things about yourself and you're going to try and make changes and be a better person, of course, we're all working from that id perspective where we just want things now. We don't want to be locked up, and we get mad. And I think a lot of times when it comes to different protest groups that are going around with COVID going on, that it's nobody wants to be told what to do. There's nothing to do at home. And I found myself a couple of days ago.
Tell us.
An anti-mask rally. But when me and my son pulled into it, it was like we were just smiling, like, oh, what's going on here? Everybody's having lots of fun. So we were just waving and smiling and honking, and I had no idea what it was. So you have to really question that deep down inside, do people really want to feel that violence like that and scream and rant at the top of your lungs or is it just that you want to communicate? I mean, these people were having a lot of fun. I don't know who they were, but they were just doing something other than sitting at home worrying about, am I going to die next week? And if people want to get together on stuff, what maybe they should. I mean, if you're going to get together and not wear masks, you might as well have a family picnic or something.
Yeah, exactly. Do it with people you love.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe their relatives don't want them around. That's why they're.
I don't know. I always say even the biggest asshole. Can I say that?
Yes, you can. No problem.
Even the biggest person that other people have trouble with has something good about them if you just find it.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
But first, you have to ask yourself, how hard do you want to look? What is it going to take out of you?
That's right. And you know what?
Again.
Yeah. That's one of the things with the pandemic. Hey, Simone, it's like, I think like a lot of us, I would say especially women, is we sort of we take a step back and we see like, who are we surrounding ourselves with, and what is the energy that's around me, on a day-to-day basis, or like, is this right? Is this what I want? We're just, there's a lot of talk now about setting boundaries and all this type of thing. But really, even for you, like you and I share that we're both artists. And when you're an artist, things can get demanding. Like, people want you to come and they want you to exhibit, or you got to meet people, you got to do all these things. And now I'm like, there are things that I would rather be doing that would fulfill me in a way that.
So you mean like, because of the pandemic, maybe more and more women are looking inside of themselves to see what they're made of and who they are. And
Yeah.
I know a
And
lot
not
of people,
feeling like we have to prove ourselves all the time. Like,
yeah,
that pushing, right?
I'll be 60 years old in a year, and a lot of people, usually men, will make fun of that saying that, oh, she had to go find herself. But it's true, because right from birth we're being taught how to be great little mothers, and we end up in positions of babysitting younger siblings. And as soon as we grow up and we start dating, we may accidentally get pregnant.
Yeah.
Or I mean, it's just human nature to get to the point where the whole thing is to procreate and to start a family.
Mm-hmm.
And once we're doing that, our kids start growing up, and we start wondering, what was in this for me? I mean, was I meant to just have a real crappy childhood and then look after other people for the rest of my life? I mean, when is somebody going to look after me? When will I be able to do stuff that other people just take for granted? And relationships can change, people can change. And as a woman, I would never look unkindly on another woman that is coming to the point in her life where she needs to make those changes.
Mm-hmm.
Because we all only have one life, and it's pretty one-sided if mothers and women have to only be looking out for other people to be looked upon with respect. I mean,
Yeah.
Jesus, why should we have to carry that? I mean, and sometimes you look around, you see women that don't, and you think they might have a negative attitude, but I don't. I think it's like good for her.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
my sister is always saying, guilt is a trip best not taken.
Yes, I love that. Oh my God. Give your sister a hug for me. It's so true. Yeah. Yeah. My husband says that. He says, guilt it's a wasted emotion. And, as soon as I start talking to him about something, he'll say, oh, you're on that trip, that guilt, you're taking that trip again, are you? And,
Why do you do that? Is it a female thing, or is it just...
it's very painful, isn't it, Simone?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually, I've found lately that because of COVID and isolating and having to look inside, that a lot of times we can be sitting there and we can be getting our stomach in knots and worrying about all these things that could be happening. But a lot of the time, what we're thinking and worrying about is not happening. And the whole idea of ulcers and upset stomachs and knots in your belly, those are all just preconceived notions by yourself, and you don't have to carry that around with you. Just look around and see what's happening. And
yes, that's such a good point. It's like, how do we go from creating things that are not there, which I am so understanding of that. I do that. I create things in my head. Like, I can always figure out the worst case scenario. Like,
oh yeah,
the best case scenario, I'm like, okay, well, and anybody who meets me would say, oh, you're such a positive person. And I'm like, oh, you don't know the dark side of what's actually
yeah,
going on back. And I've learned too, part of it is control, trying to control the environment, feeling out of control, feeling like people have power over you. There's a lot of that kind of thing going on. One of your paintings that I really love is the Sundance Sisters, which you recently posted on your Facebook page. Does that relate to what we're talking about right now, Simone?
the Sundance Sisters is I went through I'm always going through a really hard time in my life.
Yeah. Stop praying for strength.
Sometimes I worry. So I used to be really afraid that if I healed and everything was going good for me, that I would stop painting. So it's kind of ridiculous. It's like, but I remember I was on a road trip with my ex-husband, and we were driving from, oh no, I'll be right back.
That's okay. No problem. Sarah Turl just texted, I think we've lost sound. Can somebody just confirm that they can in fact hear us? Because I think we're okay. But
Okay.
All right.
That's funny because I went that way, but I saw on the camera I was
Hilarious.
So we were driving from Prince Albert to the Paw, Manitoba. And I had never seen a bear in my life. I always wanted to be one of those lucky people that when you're driving around, you see bear and moose and all kind of wildlife. And my brother had just passed away. And when we were driving through this forest, I counted over a dozen bears on the side of the road. And some of them were standing there with their paws up like this. And then others were just sitting there against trees, eating blades of grass. And it was real because he saw it too. So, and then when we came through the forest on the other side, I got a feeling personally that they were telling me to keep coming, keep going east. And when my mother had passed away, it was like, I didn't want to be only a person who had relatives on my dad's side because that wasn't good. So I started going in search of my mother's people. And I started having really interesting dreams. And one of the dreams is the one that I share about the children all lined up in a row. There was this huge valley, and there were these kids. I mean, it was a huge valley, but at the same time, I knew that I was in the basement of this house. I think it was my childhood home, and there was a sweat lodge in the front. There were two in the back. One in the back was for men. The other one was for women. But the one in the front, the door was always open, and there was thousands upon thousands of little kids lined up there, and none of them had faces. And they would bend down, they would go into this lodge, and they were all wearing the same brown tunics, and they kind of looked like potato sacks, but they would go in there with no faces, and you could tell that from their body positioning that they were not very happy. And they would go in there for a while, and then a few minutes later you would see them rising up the top of this lodge. and they would have this light on them, and they would be like just floating, and you could tell that all that sadness and darkness that they had been living with was disappearing. But those are the kinds of dreams I was having. They were really vivid, and I knew that it was something. So I went to visit one of my aunts, and I think I had one of my where I couldn't stop crying, and I was talking to her, and I was telling her about the dreams, and she told me, "You have to go see your cousin." So I went to his lodge, and then I started sundancing, and I talked to him about some of the dreams, and in some of the dreams I was being cut, and I ended up going to I ended up starting sundancing. And if you look at my work, when I started adding the ribbons, like they were like this, but they would come down. Ooh.
Yeah, I know, other way.
So I have my 4th year coming up. It keeps getting postponed due to COVID.
Yeah.
So the painting I did, there's a lot of symbolism in that painting that only the sundancers would really understand. Like the blue dots, for one thing, that's a part of the ceremony. And the dancers are sitting there and they're on their knees, and I painted them to look very demure and very, very feminine, and and just to celebrate us as women. And then you have the eagle whistles on their necks, or the eagle bone whistles on the necks, and I'm trying to remember the painting. It's a beautiful painting. I love it.
I love it. And you even said in there that you will not share what the blue dots are about.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
Yeah.
I was really intrigued by that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It is it is amazing, that comment about, oh, you're a woman now, approaching 60, and now you're finally finding yourself, kind of thing.
Yeah.
When you think about it, I mean, we have wisdom to share, right? I think it's almost as you cross over that line into your 50s.
Oh yeah.
And onwards, there's so much that we can embark on others and share our wisdom. That's our duty to do that.
That is like your life is your learning building.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have hard times, the education that you're getting is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
I used to always say that if there were 2 elders that I had to speak to, I would automatically talk to the one who's lived, who's made mistakes, who's seen it all, because the things that they've learned from just their experiences, even whether you know it or not, is like a vault of wealth. And when you see young people over the years, I mean, if we don't have hard lives so that we can't learn from them, and we can't help others and share what we've learned when we see young people along the way, then what's the point?
Yeah. Yes. And you know what I really caught me in this interview that you said, where the wisdom that you have around perspective, like even when you were saying about the residential schools, how, this happened, but it didn't take away from your culture, because that's a part of you that's so ingrained in you that it could never be taken away.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when I read about the residential schools and what was happening and what the system was, that's all I could think about, was how devastating that, these children had been removed from their homes, their culture taken away from them, so far away that they couldn't even see their parents, and for you to, have experienced this through direct family members,
Mm-hmm.
to say that that your perspective on it is like, it's just amazing, and
Yeah.
thank you for that, because
I mean,
that
there's a lot of people that don't have a clue that tell people to just get over it. But to this day, I have seen every Holocaust movie there is to see, and that's just out of sheer being a good human being. You don't just tell a whole group of people to get over it. And if it's embarrassing you somehow, you have to really look at yourself for that, because healing from trauma is it's not something that's easy. And if it's in your face, then all I have to say to those people that are really upset by it, why are you upset? It didn't happen to you. But to those people that want to have a better understanding of why people are so upset, then all you can really do is just hug those people and tell them, well, thank you for asking. I mean, what happened in Canada and the United States with residential schools is shameful.
yeah.
And I was watching about Russia invading the Ukraine. Now, I'm not political, and I'm probably going to get myself in trouble, but
Yeah, it's okay.
it's very similar to what happened here. So I don't understand why these Western countries want to go stop Russia from going into the Ukraine, because they're going to take away their culture. They're going to basically do everything to the Ukraine that these Western countries did to us, and now they're sitting on these wealths through this wealth through mining and other resources stuff. So, I mean, I don't understand that. I've never understand how people can lie and manipulate the truth so that it suits them. And I'm not saying it's everybody, because there's only a few people in power, and they don't represent everybody. So I have a friend in the Ukraine who's an artist, and I don't know. I mean, what's happening there is terrible, but at the same time, what gives these other countries the right
Yeah.
and have say in what's going on between two people that have been living side by side forever? I mean, the news twists truth. They make it one-sided, and I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, did they learn from what they did to us that makes them the expert advisors on how to stop Russia from doing what they did to us to the Ukraine? Did they learn from that? Because if they have, I don't see any evidence of it.
Right.
Maybe they should just mind their own business and try and fix what they have done here first.
Yes.
I don't want to be.
No, you know what, Simone, what occurred to me today as well? And so I was really excited to talk to you about your celebrations and the rituals you have and the different things you practice, and talk to you about prayer and all of those things, right? And I'm thinking to myself, as Westerners, we tend to like glamorize and look to the Eastern philosophy to teach us about prayer and meditation and all of these things. And in the meantime, we have oppressed the people on this land who have been practicing these beautiful ceremonies and alternate ways of thinking and medicine and all of the things that you do, and we haven't allowed you to be who you are. And here we are looking to the East. Oh, help us to become more spiritual. Help us to become, do you know what I mean? Like, why?
I mean, if people are always looking for ways to improve themselves and to prove themselves as a society, all you have to do is improve yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
It's simple. You don't have to search the world for different things that are going to make you a better person. Geez, just be a better person. It's simple. And I don't know. I mean, things have changed. I mean, when I was a kid, things were a lot worse, but things have changed. People are changing. And unfortunately, it's not the people from my generation that are changing things. It's the young people. The one thing I noticed about young people from having my 9 kids is that the young people today, they don't see color. They don't see sex. They don't see this and that. They just see other human beings. And the relatability that they have with each other is amazing. Wow. I think it's only when our jobs as parents is to teach what we've known, and what we know is shit, really. I mean, our old school generations, I mean, they learn from their generations. It's not a bad thing. We just, maybe if we can offer more encouragement to these young people that are making these differences. I mean,
and also
the university campus or a school campus, you're going to see people from all over the world sitting together. You'll see like two-spirited people or anyone. You'll see them all sitting together and nobody really cares. But except for us walking by thinking, oh, well, that's nice, because we're learning from them. So I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, that's okay. That's okay. It's so true. And also with technology, because they're so much more comfortable with it. And it's beautiful because they're seeking truth. They're showing what's happening. They're sharing information. It's just like, here it is, and so they're teaching us, and it goes back to, I can't remember now if we said it on here or offline, but we have so much to learn. Well, we said it on here from the millennials, the Gen Z, and they can
when
really
you think about it. These younger people that don't see these differences. I mean, I grew up in the Archie Bunker age. I'm not going to lie. I noticed differences. I have the occasional ignorant remark, but I'm not a racist. I'm a person that grew up with this stuff on TV. And sometimes you repeat what you heard growing up, and we're not perfect. But these young people, a lot of them, where do they get that from? Where do they get this open-mindedness from? And this acceptance? So when we're talking about young people looking for the truth, I don't think they are. I think they already see it.
They're exposing it now.
Yeah, them trying to get it through to us, who've always been in the position to, what do you say, oil and vinegar?
Yeah. Exactly.
But hopefully their kids will be even better. But we know as parents that good luck with that.
Yeah. Oh gosh, amazing. So Simone, with everything you're doing and your beautiful pieces of art that are also helping you with your own healing through your own trauma, where do you sort of see what does the next year look like for you? Like what are your dreams and plans? And
well, I just recently got into well, I've actually been with this company for a while, so I have a lot of merchandise from canvases, from huge canvases that I can. I have a lot of inventory, and what I would like to do now is dig further into the visions that I've been having and the dreams, and do larger paintings. I don't know. It's just the next point where I would like to be, is to do larger paintings and maybe have some of the teachings that I've learned. Like when I went out east, I met this wonderful group of women, and their passion about the water. I don't know if you're aware of Josephine Mandamin. She was a water walker, and out east around the Great Lakes, and she was absolutely amazing. I even had the the honor of sitting with her once, and she's very blunt with her teachings. I appreciate
Wow.
it.
Yeah.
So I would like to do paintings that basically almost like educational pieces, but I don't want anyone to think for a minute that this is something that I've learned on my own, because this is something I learned after meeting other women and other men out east. The different levels the impact of residential school has had are different across Canada, and how people are recovering and reacting to them are different, because we don't know. I mean, it depends on contact. When contact first happened, where different people were, how they've been assimilated over the years, and of course there's governments that allowed people to move around freely back then. I mean, Native people couldn't even leave the reserve unless they had a pass, and I'm sure getting those passes was not always done in an honorable fashion. But the residential school impact on different people is, sometimes people are healing slowly and sometimes people are healing different. And when I went out east, I noticed that a lot of people really had a good grip on. I think one of the things, and I'm just noticing this now, that really made a difference on those people is that the connection to the earth. When contact happened, Ojibway people really didn't lose much of their culture or their teachings because they were kept away. So the recovery rate was, as far as, I mean, they have more of an understanding of the connectedness of everything in the world, the connectedness of everything around you. I went to a peyote ceremony once, and it was really interesting because when I came out of the teepee in the middle of the night, I looked down on the ground and I could see how all the plants, the cactus, flowers, trees, they all have roots that go into the ground. And the legend about the big peyote button down in the States where it's growing. And it's almost like I could see how these were connected. Different ceremonies are really, really interesting. And I totally forgot what we were talking about.
No, this is fascinating. Well, we were talking about sort of your vision for this year and your artwork. Yeah.
I was talking about how things are different. The longer a people can hang on to their old stories and stuff. I mean, because of contact, and so much was lost between different, I'm going to say tribes for lack of a better word. But people are borrowing from each other, because the residential school really did a number on a lot of different tribes.
Yeah.
But that who we are as a people is still inside each of us. I know when I first used to go to ceremonies, my cousin used to always ask him questions, and he would tell me, "Why do you keep asking me when you already know?" And we all know.
Wow.
So I stopped asking, and I would just go forward like I knew, and things would work out fine.
That's so powerful.
Oh, and I was going to say, when it comes to Canada and the United States, I don't want to know all these Canadians. And when I meet new Canadians, I always ask them, "Well, where are you from?" And, "Well, I'm from here. I was born here." I say, "Yeah, I know, but where did you come from?" And they'll give me the name of the town, and then I'll say, "Where were your parents from?" "Well, they were born here too." And I'll say, "Well, where were your grandparents from?" "Italy." And then I'll tell them, "Tell me about that. Why not take pride in who you are and where you came from, you know?" And I would love if we could all just honor who we are and talk about who we are instead of sitting back as a group passing judgment on each other. It would be so much easier to take pride in who you are.
Oh, Simone, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Wow, it's so interesting you say that. My parents, they met here, but they both came from Germany. And as a kid in public school in the 70s, kids would call my brother and I Nazis, right?
Oh
Because
my God, are you kidding me?
oh yeah. But and so then it was like, well, then I remember being like, I better not tell anyone I'm German. I'm Canadian, because then there was like this shame attack. But I quickly recovered. Once I hit grade 9, I was like, I'm German. I eat bratwurst and I'm proud. Like
Yeah.
I wasn't.
Everybody wants to celebrate Oktoberfest, but nobody wants to.
Yeah, exactly. And learning more about it, and learning about my family and how they were very compassionate, and they had
what they dressed in, the rituals they took part in. I don't say rituals like I mean like we all have different things in our different groups, like what am I trying to say here? Like I know when they have a mosaic, I don't know if they do that where you're from, but they have this mosaic in Regina, and what they do is they showcase as many countries as they can, and then you buy a passport, and then you get to go to all these different countries in town, and you get to eat the food, you get to get yourself involved in dancing and stuff like that. And
Simone, you just took me back to the 70s and the 80s. We had that in Toronto, and it was called Caravan. And my parents took us to that to teach us about other cultures. And it was the most fabulous thing. It was amazing. So, okay, I got to come out there and experience it then, because they don't do it here anymore.
Yeah, they should. They should make that mandatory in every single town.
And it's so good. They even had little passports, and you get like a stamp on your passport for every pavilion. Yeah, that's so cool.
Imagine how disappointed I was when I finally went to Europe, and they don't stamp passports when you're in Amsterdam and you travel to a nearby country, because you have to request it.
Yeah, you have to ask for it. It's so stupid.
So like how are you going to fill up your passport if people are going to do that?
I know. Like the passport is something to pass down to your kids. Like, look at all the places your mom saw and experienced.
And how well things change, like I said.
Yeah. So Simone, I wanted to make sure people know as well if they are interested in a piece of your artwork. So do you sell originals as well as prints, or?
I do the originals on commission. I can't stop painting. I took a break. I didn't paint since like December 12th or something.
Okay.
And I just finally finished my first one.
So you're painting like every single day?
Every single day, yeah. It's like walking or I don't know, but then
breathing.
It took me a really long time just to do a small painting, because my arm was like just shaking, and never going to do that again.
No more breaks for you.
But if I have different places where I sell paintings out of, and if people want to, can I say the name of the gallery?
Yes, please. Yeah.
There's a Bear Claw Gallery in Edmonton, and if you can't get out and go shopping, I was going to say I can see your son in the back, but it's mine.
I don't have any kids to show off. Yeah.
So if you go to the Bear Claw Gallery in Edmonton, she's got a lot of stuff, and if anybody wants something special, they can contact her and get a commission done. She also has a lot of stuff on hand. I stopped doing a lot of little paintings because it's easier to go through the gallery and let her distribute them. And I'm really hard to get hold of.
I'm so happy I got a hold of you. We had like a Sunday texting on Facebook Messenger. I think you liked the post I did, and then I went, "Oh my God, Simone, she's actually, oh my God." And yeah, so then I messaged you right away.
Yeah, so I love paintings, and one of the reasons I started painting was when the residential school thing started. All I could think of was all the things that happened to me because of the first wave of people that went in. And when they came home and they had no idea how to raise children, to look after a home, the dysfunctionality of that came down to my brothers and sisters and myself, and it was a really hard time. So, of course, you have a lot of sexual abuse and incest that happened to a lot of people, but that was the norm of the time because of what happened to these kids. So when I heard about the residential school payments for starting, I was enraged. I was so mad. I kept thinking, why are you paying these people for what they did to me? And that was a really selfish way to think. But at the time, it was what drove me to wanting to get rid of some of my anger and to start painting things that I wish I would have known when I was growing up. To paint families sitting around, holding each other, loving each other, working together, filled with hope, kids that were loved. And I mean, yeah, it was a tragedy what happened to the people, but you have to find something good in it. I mean, that sounds ridiculous, but you have to find a way to deal with that. And for me, it was through painting. And eventually I stopped feeling really bad, and I just loved my work. And I remember when I first started going to ceremonies, I wanted to be a medicine woman, but I was told that you are, when you're painting your prayers, you're helping people, and you might not realize it, but your paintings are your medicine. And that was really a powerful thing. Oh, and a funny thing is, when I started painting, I would paint these, you see the flowers and the rocks in the paintings? Mm-hmm. And you have the sun, which is, for me, is symbolic of Creator. And then you have all these little people, and they're wrapped in blankets. And it wasn't until 5 years after I started painting that I realized I was painting my name.
You're kidding. Oh, God. So back to the little silver Simone that you talked about. Yeah.
I remember that in kindergarten. It was, like I said, life when I was a kid, it was normal for what it was at the time. Mm-hmm. But I remember always feeling invisible. But when the teacher gave us that glitter and I sat down and I did that little card, it must have been about 3 inches by 5 inches. And she just told us, put something on there that's important to you. And I wrote my name and put silver sparkles around, and I never forgot it.
Wow.
And that's beautiful. One of my favorite artists when I was small, when I accidentally wandered into the library, was Rembrandt. I fell in love with his work. I loved the colors. It was so meaningful. I mean, the dark. Everybody can paint the same picture, but everybody's perspective of how they convey that picture to people from what they've done is going to be totally different. And
yeah, it's so true. I say that with jewelry. Like it's so cool when you get a bunch of jewelers together, and I work with beads. We can all have the same beads, the same chain, the same everything, and then but what we create from it, it's completely different.
Yeah, it's what you're putting into it, your experience, your outlook. When I was in university, I read that Rembrandt dealt mainly with light and dark, the effect of light on a color and the shade and the shadows. And when you look at his pieces, you can really see that. And
Yeah.
I
Did you
did.
study art in university, Simone? Is that what you?
I took an art class, and I didn't really. I felt as if it was going to lead us all down the same path.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I would have stuck it out because the techniques, but
Mm.
I felt as if I would run the risk of losing myself in a different type of expression than the one that I was already doing. So I didn't finish it.
Mhm.
And I was pregnant every year too. So
Wow. Oh, yeah. Gosh, what a busy time in your life.
yes. And the funny thing is, I started off painting portraits. I could do all kinds of portraits, and I ended up becoming known for faceless people.
Really? So amazing. And now, I mean, you're just so unique. You really, it's so beautiful to see how you've developed this style that is very much yours.
Yeah, yeah. That's one of the things that I started when I started painting. I didn't want to do it unless I could come up with something that was my own, something that I could
Mhm.
feel that was mine. So I didn't want
Beautiful.
to copy or.
Yeah.
So I just came up with that, and it started. I can still remember when I did my first painting. It was of my grandmother.
Wow.
She was sitting in a field of flowers because that's where I would have liked to see her, instead of surviving and recovering from the hell that she went through. Painted her sitting in a yellow blanket with a feather in her hair, looking up at the sun.
Mhm.
I think I painted about 5,000 flowers on that painting.
That's
Of course, now
amazing.
they've gotten a little bigger.
And Simone, part of this, when like even going through, you know, like I don't know, like I'll call it just like therapy, like regular
Mhm.
therapy. You know, people believe that when you heal yourself, not only are you healing yourself, you're healing your mother, your grandmother, I mean, all of your ancestors who have been before you, if you're taking a more of a spiritual approach to the healing. Is that something that you've been taught as well, or is that something you feel when
Mm,
you paint that picture of your grandmother? Do you almost feel like you're passing on your
maybe. I never thought about it, but maybe it's like taking her from the hell that she grew up in and placing her somewhere. But I think that's mostly for me, for my own mental health,
yeah.
to um, to put people in positions where they would be better off than where they might
Mhm.
right now.
Yeah. Yes, and you think about your everything that your ancestors have been through, and then what we were talking about before with those feelings that you have, those painful feelings of guilt that you've had to overcome in your own trauma, and now this acceptance to looking at this new generation and letting them lead the path and really celebrating what it is that they're doing. Like, you're actually breaking cycles and creating new ways of thinking and of being in a new world. And that in itself, even though it's positive, it also comes with a lot of pain because you're doing things that your mother and your grandmother and all the people before perhaps couldn't have even
Yeah,
done,
they
known
wouldn't
how.
have even had a chance. I mean,
No
when
opportunity.
when I was like, I've gone through a lot of abuse within my family, and when I first heard about the graves that they were uncovering, that just tore me apart. It's like it's like that volcano that erupted and those shock waves that kept coming through. That's how the discovery of those bodies affected the people, the native people in Canada and the States. It was like a big shock wave because it almost forces you. I never say the word forgive, but I say understand. It forces you to understand how your parents and grandparents got to the point that they did, where they were incapable of looking after you and loving you. And when I grew up, I never had one person tell me they loved me except my grandmother. when I would stay with her. And I never had any healthy hugs or anything like that. And when you hear about what happened to them, it's like they gave you a gift. They gave us all a gift by letting us know exactly what our parents and grandparents went through and how impossible it is that we're even still alive after everything they went through. It's amazing that they survived so that they could have us. And sometimes the baggage that came with it, it had to have been worth it in the long run because we're still here and we have kids, and slowly and slowly this trauma from generation to generation is going. But the discovery of those children that were murdered in those schools really ended up being a gift because it has to be. To know that there's a reason. I mean, when we go through trauma, one of the biggest things you want to know is, what's the reason? Why did I have to grow up like this? And you understand after you hear that it's amazing your parents even made it out alive. And what are you going to do with that? Are you going to continue crying into your sleeve and making an ass of yourself, or are you going to get off your butt and make changes, do something positive, make what happened to them worth it by making changes to everybody around you?
Yeah. Yes. That's amazing. You're healing that generational trauma, and I always hope in my mind that our ancestors can live through us somehow, that any joy that we can bring to our lives, that they can experience it with us, from the other side.
On a positive note,
yeah,
I've taught a lot of kids, maybe 100,000 kids.
Yeah, what the heck? We didn't even get to that part. I know, that's amazing. So, and have you done that on reservations, or?
I have actually done that in public schools with all kids.
Awesome.
The class ends up being not so much about the painting as it is about the working together, the cooperation, the sharing. And I know when I was young, if somebody had showed me how to make money early, things would have been a lot different. So a lot of times when young people find themselves out alone, they don't know what to do. They don't know how to make changes. Sometimes the options you have when you're on the street are not very nice. But if you can get yourself a paintbrush and some paper and the minimal amount of paint that you can start making a living, and maybe you can change the course of your life. So I love it.
Oh, that's amazing.
Of course, as I get older, I do less and less classes because I am an old crotchety lady now.
No, you've got wisdom to impart. You have to, you just have to use your energy in different ways. Oh man. What an interesting life you've had.
It's
so much more ahead of you still, and we're all looking forward to seeing what you're going to create. And there's
when I do a couple of these big pieces, I will post them on my Facebook, and not everybody can see them, but you can share them.
Yes, that's so great. We'll definitely.
I've been having a lot of Piracy Issues, different companies around the world making T-shirts and mugs and stuff out of my images, and never calling to ask me if I would be interested in allowing it. And they don't see it, but they're taking money from a mother and grandmother.
That's right.
It's really, I don't know how you can sleep at night when you're doing something like that.
I don't get that either. It's terrible. Yeah,
there's so much unbalance.
Yes, yeah.
So
I know it's so there, we can expose ourselves so much, which is great to get ourselves out there, but then you have that negative side, especially with art.
Yeah. I just hope I'm big enough now that when I post a painting, if somebody finds something anywhere in the world, they will contact me and let me know. So I must be doing something.
You are
there.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually I'm way over your time probably here, but I can talk to you forever. I did want to ask you one last question is how did you get international recognition? Has that just been as a result of getting your artwork out there, people picking it up at the gallery?
Well, I think social media can pretty much make anything big. I'm just working, and sometimes I'm surprised.
Great.
So did you like that post about love?
Oh, wow, that was amazing. We can talk about that if you
Sure.
want to. Yeah, that was very deep.
Yeah.
I read through it a couple of times. Yeah.
Well,
So maybe
when you get old, you've experienced it a few times. It's a lot of people are having trouble right now, especially with COVID. I think a lot of people's problems right now are just related not to COVID, but to the circumstances surrounding it. So anyway, that's why I posted that.
Yeah, it's a great post. Everyone should read that. Yeah. Okay. So great. You're a beautiful writer, Simone. Are you writing a book?
If you want. I actually wrote a book.
Did you?
700 pages long. And it's about my childhood, what I went through. And when I started the book, I really hated my mother and my father. When I finished the book, instead of calling it the end, I called it the beginning. And I still hate my father.
Wow.
But I have a lot of love and respect for my mother.
Amazing. What's your book called?
I haven't, I still have it sitting.
Oh, wow. So it's not published yet.
It's not done. No. Okay. I mean, it's done, but I re-edited it 4 times, but that's like taking 2 years off and then going back and working on it because it gets hard to read it and then taking another year off and going back. So I did 4 edits and now I'm probably going to get a USB cord and start actually doing the final one.
Wow. Good for you.
It should be interesting.
Yeah,
I knew I sent it to a publisher. I sent it to a publisher once and he wrote back and he told me, "You can't tell these lies." He said, "We wouldn't publish them because we would be liable." But they're not lies. It's my life.
God.
So, and just about everything I was talking about in there has come to light since. So I should just send it back to him and say, "Hello."
Not a lie. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll probably, maybe I'll just get one book published and I'll self-publish it at Chapters or something.
Yeah. Do it. For sure. And Bear Claw would probably love to have it as part of, with your collection because people
amazing. She's really easy to deal with. If anybody is interested in paintings, you can contact Jackie and she'll let me know.
Okay, that's so great. Simone, I'm so grateful for all the time you gave us today and for sharing your story and for opening up and being vulnerable with us. It means a lot. And it's a true honor for myself and everybody watching.
Thank you very much for having me. You're fun. I hope I don't get into trouble.
You're not going to get into trouble. No.
Okay.
It's called freedom of speech. So I'm just going to put you in the virtual green room and I will come back to you while I say goodbye to everybody. And if you want to just hang tight, I'll be right back with you. Okay, Simone, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Wow, what a great interview. I could have kept going with Simone, just fascinating. And I hope you enjoyed the interview and I hope you'll share it with friends. And if you happen to be watching this on YouTube, please do subscribe to the channel. We'd love to have you here. when you get off of the your laptop or your phone today, I would love for you to get back on it and go to brendabadome.com. Get yourself something beautiful for the winter season. Use the coupon code Get to Know Her for 21% off of your order, and then head over to glamjewels.com and find the perfect jewels to go with your outfit. Thank you so much. Have a great day and keep on showing the world your sparkle. Bye for now.